Hello again! Welcome back to my channel / web series about my experience in Cape Town, South Africa as a Gilman Scholar. In this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more in depth about my adjustment to living in South Africa, the beginning when I got there, as well as coming back to the US and going to school at my home university. Just going to be talking a little bit about what it was like to travel there. It was a very long journey, how it was for the first few weeks, what elements of culture shock I experienced, and then vice versa, kind of about being back in the US. Shall we? I'm not super great with transitions. I do handle them if they come my way, but in general, takes me a little bit to get used to new things, especially if it's a big thing. You know, obviously if I'm like using a different kind of chapstick, it's like, I mean, well, actually that's still kind of like a big deal. But in reality, it takes me a little bit to adjust fully into life in a new place if I move, whether that's in a new house, a new city, a new residence hall. It's a different atmosphere. So obviously when you move to another country that you've never been to before, in a hemisphere that you've never been to before, might I add, it's a little nerve-wracking, especially when you don't know anybody who's going to be there, you don't know who you're going to be living with. Once I got there, I was kind of quiet. I just wanted to kind of absorb my surroundings, and if you know me, you know that once I get used to things, I can be very bubbly and social. But at first, it was definitely hard to transition right into that mindset when I was trying to get used to everything. I was trying to make friends with the city before I made friends with like real people. And luckily when I missed my family, you know, I could just talk to them on Facebook chat or like iMessage or anything like that, because it's so easy nowadays to talk to people if you have the internet. So when I moved to Cape Town, we had kind of a week-long orientation and then school started. So we weren't thrown right into academics, which I think was kind of nice because you're still trying to adjust to your surroundings. Little things are different that you wouldn't expect, like things you can buy at a grocery store, transportation routes, like where you can walk at night, especially as a woman, you know, have to be aware of these safety kind of tactics so you can be sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation that would be dangerous. And the classes I took in Cape Town went towards my majors back at home, so I really wanted them to go in depth about what I was already studying. So I was campaigning really hard to get into those classes, and I did, which was really great, and I did end up enjoying them a lot, and I'll talk about that in a later video as well. The hardest thing, I think, to transition to Cape Town and UCT, I think also has to do with the size of my home university, because it is mid-sized. GW is about 15,000 people. UCT is about 30,000 people. I'm probably sure that's like a very rough estimate. Being at a big public school like that, especially since it was more of a campus, because GW is very urban, there are streets running through it, and it does have like a campus feel, but not really the kind of traditional campus atmosphere you would expect, which UCT does have. So that was a big transition, just kind of learning how to navigate around a big school like that, especially when you have big lecture classes, knowing when to connect with professors, how to reach out to classmates to, you know, get help on the homework or if you don't understand something. Another thing I was anticipating having to get used to was eating a lot of meat. I don't eat meat, I eat fish, and I was kind of scared because I didn't want to get to Cape Town and then have most of the options at like restaurants and grocery stores be meat. So I kind of tried to train myself to eat a little bit of it every day before I left, and when I got to Cape Town, I was pleasantly surprised that there were a lot of different options. Meat, no meat. It was really, really easy for me to be a vegetarian down there, or a pescatarian down there. It's actually, I would say, probably easier to eat out as a vegetarian there than it is anywhere in the US that I've traveled before. They always labeled things with the vegetarian sign. There are tons and tons of options. It was never just like the one veggie burger that I'm sure a lot of vegetarians know they have to order at a restaurant because it's kind of the only option. And all of their options were really good. Our program director, Quentin Redcliffe, who is absolutely amazing, gave us this speech at the beginning of the semester that was about the different stages of adjusting to a place. The first stage was excitement and just joy about being in this new place and doing everything and experiencing all these new things, and initially being excited about this energy that you have. The second stage was kind of like a downward slope from that exciting energy of kind of missing your family and finally hitting you that you're not at home and that you're here for this amount of time, and it's going to be difficult to adjust and everything after the initial excitement. And the third stage was just kind of calm acceptance and comfort that you're in this place. You've experienced these two highs and lows, and I'm sure other highs and lows as well, and now you are at peace with where you are. You're used to the location, you're used to the people for the most part, and you are okay with where you're at. For me, it was frustrating because I didn't really have that arc that he was explaining. It kind of went the other way for me. So I got there and I was very nervous. I was like, where am I? I want to go home. I'm not comfortable here. And it took me a few weeks, like I said, to feel that excitement and kind of get to that point where I could do things and not worry about going home and feeling homesick and missing my family and my friends that I knew what I was going through. And I kind of like that it went that way for me because it was all upwards instead of kind of a roller coaster. You know, I got there and I was feeling nervous, and then eventually it grew into this excitement and this love and joy for this place. And then once I got into a better routine and kind of a more structured lifestyle, I was able to settle into that stage 3 that Quentin was talking about, where it's easy to kind of just be yourself in this new place and learn more about who you are and what you like and what you value in a place and in friends. And so I think that my arc, even though it was a little bit different and it was hard to kind of go over that initial hump, it worked well for me. And I would definitely say to anybody who doesn't experience study abroad the way the program directors tell them they're going to experience it, or anybody who's been there, it's gonna be okay. Everyone has different experiences and yours is valid, even if it's completely different than what you expect or what other people expect. I found that when I got back to the US, I definitely had a lot more culture shock than I did going to Cape Town. In my Q&A video, I talked about how conversations in Cape Town were high context, which kind of means that people are more interested, they want to know what's going on, instead of the low context conversation where you just say, how are you? And then the other person responds, good, and that's kind of it. So getting used to that in Cape Town and getting used to people who were very interested in what you were doing and who you were and what your life was about, even if they were completely different from you, that was very hard to get used to coming back to the US because people were not like that. You come back from this amazing experience that is so complicated and varied, and there's so many different parts of it that you want to talk about, and people kind of just ask you this blanket question of how was study abroad, and then you're just forced to kind of give them a brief answer because you know that they don't really want to sit and listen to you talk about it for like an hour, which I'm sure everybody could do, but it's just not in the interest of people in the US as much as it is in Cape Town. So that was the hardest thing for me coming back, was just kind of getting used to this more cold atmosphere, which seems really depressing, and I tried to kind of explain this to people and have deeper conversations and try to facilitate more in-depth interactions with people, but it doesn't always work because people don't always want to talk to you all the time. Another thing I had to adjust to was the exchange rate, because the US dollar was about 15 to 16 rand while I was there, which is pretty bad for the South African economy, but obviously for me, I was able to spend a lot less and get the same amount of like food and items that I would in the US. And when I came back, you know, I was faced with these really high prices that I wasn't used to for a long time. The last thing I would say is I went into Cape Town expecting a lot of things for myself in terms of activities. I had this whole reading list that I wanted to do, and I was gonna draw and write poetry and everything, and it was gonna be a very self-discovery kind of experience, and it was a self-discovery experience, I would say, but not because I did all of those things. I did read, you know, I did write poetry, but it wasn't in the same way that I thought I was going to, and I think that was even better. Reacting to your environment is so important when you're in a different place and you're living in a different place, instead of kind of manifesting your own environment and then trying to pick the parts that you like. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it was informative for you and that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.